got to be Tuesday.
It is Tuesday and it's KHOP88. I'm so happy to be here with you, Eric and Todd Braufman. And we are live now and we're thinking about our friend Jason.
Yeah, and I'm guessing pretty much everyone who's watching knows what Jason is going through. It's it's heartbreaking. And Marnie, you and Jason started this project as a way to try and connect people, from our class during the pandemic. And 65 episodes later, yes, here we are. It's pretty amazing. So, my hope is Jason, you're if you're watching, you're feeling the love and support of everyone that you've connected and everyone that you've touched through KHOP88. We're thinking about you. We're thinking about your family, and we'll keep finding ways to connect as a class. And with that in mind, this week we are connecting with Todd Braufman. Todd, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
Now, who is that behind you on that painting? Is that Abby Hoffman?
That is Jerry Garcia, one of my early on paintings, and I have a stack of them that I can't find enough space on my wall to paint.
You painted that?
I did.
Well, were you a painter? And when did you pick up painting? Because I don't remember you doing that when we were in high school. Is that a late in life thing?
Weird. Thanks for asking. At Camp Herzl, a summer camp, away camp, we had an arts and painting class, and I probably painted until we started not wanting to be home and being out and about in ninth grade. And then to answer your question, probably 5 years ago, I picked that up again and have been focused. And then there's Janis Joplin. It's hard to see my lamp.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I got a whole Bob Marley series as well. So it's been a lot of fun.
And
Very cool. Looks great.
Do you paint do you have a studio or do you paint in your apartment there?
My parents' utility room. It gets messy. So I use acrylic rather than oil. Or I have a unique, it's called alcohol acrylic, and it's an interesting paint. And I use a hair dryer to move the paint into fluoritic images.
What other artists have used hair dryers before? Do you know?
What?
Are there other artists who have used hair dryers in that way?
Yes, this woman, she's a LinkedIn consultant, and she started posting them every morning, and she's amazing. And that was 4 years ago. So that was a new artistic endeavor for me.
Cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. And so, I mean, I would have guessed you would have paid a couple grand for that. So that's, do you sell anything, or is it just sort of you're just doing it because it's a passion and helps keep you whole? And I guess, is there an end game for this, or it's just something that you love to do?
There is, as we briefly chatted, my primary focus in life is philanthropical. So setting aside work and all that, I normally donate what I paint for silent auctions. And it's difficult to part with, but I always know that the buyer appreciates what they did and why they did it.
So what's the most one of your paintings has ever gone for in a silent auction?
An auction, 7,200.
Wow.
Impressive.
That's holy cow, Todd. That's that. And again, I mean, I see you every now and again when I'm back in town and we get people together. And I mean, we're talking off air. I mean, we've probably seen each other within the last 2 or 3 years at a couple of different get-togethers, but I honestly don't ever remember talking to you about your art passion. And again, that's the beauty of KHOP88. You find out,
I've shared
new things about people.
I've shared with my daughters Talia and LS 20 and 17 that I was the next up, and I told them Marker's done it, and they know Rick pretty well, and they said, how are you gonna follow Marker? He's so freaking funny. So I guess I don't have to be funny, but it's a hard act to follow.
No, you can be fun. Being funny is hard. Being fun is pretty easy. So you mentioned your daughter's 20 and 17. I assume they're in school. Where they studying?
So, and I love to say her whole name, Talia Eden, in Hebrew means pleasant dew or pleasant rain. She's a junior at Madison in pre-law. And then Ella Gabrielle, daughter of God, she is going to be a senior at Wayzata, and she is top ranked in the state in cross country running. It's kind of been her passion. She suffered a very unusual fracture running outdoors in February, and it's taken her 19 weeks to be able to heal.
Hmm.
So
Not a lot of blood flow occurs in the bone metaparsal, whatever it's called.
Mhm.
But she's recovered and continuing to get stronger.
That's great to hear. And so do you go to cross country? I'm not a sporty person, as some people know, if you watch a lot of KHOP88. When your daughter runs, do you go and sit at the finish line? Like, how do you support her running?
I follow Lauren, my amazing best friend, former wife. She has each course staked out, so she knows where they're going to move and then kind of cross over. So then we see her, and then like we run to the other side to make sure we see that second round, and back to the finish line.
So you run while she's running.
Yes.
Okay. That's so cool.
Actually, we're training to kind of do something competitively at the appropriate time where it doesn't impact her health, injury, and collegiate coaches who are recruiting, they don't want obviously any injuries. So anyways, I have a good time running with and on my own.
So Todd, let's go back to your you said you raised you're very philanthropic. Obviously you're raising a ton of money through your art, which is fantastic. Do you have a favorite charity or two that you're heavily involved with?
I do. Thanks for asking. In 2004, I became close friends with Ken Barlow, who acknowledged that he was diagnosed bipolar in 2011. So I and Dave Wellstone, Paul's son, founded the Wellstone Barlow Mental Health Act. And I think as briefly saying, we went through the process of obtaining grants and all. Al Franken was amazing. We're lucky to have Al and in my opinion, Amy. But then unfortunately, we don't know what happened to Dave. He's alive, we just don't know. And he was an integral part of this. So Ken and I continue to communicate to help each other and help others.
That's so important. And are there other nonprofits that you're working with that you're proud of?
Yes, this is really neat. Rock the Cause is a nonprofit and lead donor to high school for the recording arts. So it's inner city youth over like the Midway, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And these children, are challenged by homelessness, and they can't, handle the typical, high school programs. So they are able to create their own programs that align with their passions. And I've got to know a bunch of them, and wow, these kids are geniuses. If you get stuck within that square because they're supposed to do this, well, that doesn't work for everybody. So it's a wonderful program.
Cool. And are there any, I heard you talk before we go in on air about the Guild. What is the Guild?
So that actually is the Guild is a nonprofit based in St. Paul, whom focus on helping teens and their families with mental illness, homelessness, job stability. In fact, we had on Sunday at the Leopold, for the hockey players that might listen, Leopold Event Center on the Mississippi in Fridley, a place that I rarely would ever get to Fridley. But we had 250 people, and we had the silent auctions, of which I actually won another guitar that I don't need, a donation, won another guitar at the auction. But it was really cool. I raised $225,000 in 3 hours.
That's amazing. I used to be a fundraiser. That is a boatload of money, Todd. But you mentioned one of your guitars. Do you have more than one?
Too many. 7, I think. That's gross.
Now, do you use them for different
Whoa.
situations or different scenarios? Oh, wow. Like, how do you determine which one you're going to play?
Eric, I'm so stressed out figuring out which one to play. I don't know. I think I'll probably donate a few back soon.
And were you we talked about this. You were in bands kind of throughout high school. And again, it's so funny because, again, I've known you since we played Little League together at Big Willow at, 7 or 8 years. But I don't remember you playing in bands in high school.
Well, one of our claims to fame at an early age, we played with the Replacements and the Suburbs and
wait a second, Mr. Name Dropper. Who's the we?
So the only person you would know, Alan Einesman, a year younger, he transferred from Armstrong. I knew him from camp. Mike Goldberg was from St. Paul. I knew him from camp. I still see those guys. Joel Lev.
I have a stack of them.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It was Ramon Reyna texted me.
Oh, I love him.
Ramon says hello. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
If he's watching, he has not interrupted. We are so pleased. And I have fond memories of him. He was such a caring counselor for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so the band. Joel Leviton was at Armstrong, a year younger. I knew him from Camp Herzl. And then Einesman played drums. Andy Platt, knew him from childhood. He was at Edina. And then he ended up playing in the Blue Meanies, Tim Mahoney in the Blue Meanies.
Oh, yeah.
So Catch-22 was our band. We started in 7th grade. And the claim to fame is, I don't know if Go Forth is watching. I think Cradaville was with them, but the, what do they call it? Dust Bunnies. So I vividly remember being in the theater at Hopkins High School. I think it was junior year. And I actually have photos. Maybe I'll post and send them to you guys. We won that year. And those guys were freaking amazing. So I don't know how we did it, but that was fun.
And what was the name of your band?
Catch-22. We plagiarized the name from the book.
And what kind of music did you play?
Thanks for asking. So I went through iterations. I think.
Well, we all do, right? When you're kids, you kind of. I mean, we were talking last week with Pete Filkins about how a bunch of us were so into classic rock, like that was the thing at West, that we completely missed kind of the whole Minneapolis punk scene that was going on, that was so vibrant at the time, right? Like I didn't learn about the Replacements until I got to college. Like my freshman year roommate, who was from Alabama, turned me on to the Replacements. But anyway, sorry. So what kind of tunes did Catch-22 play?
So I'll admit, like I think we wore eyeliner for shows. It was very strange, and the parachute pants and all that weird stuff. But we started out at 7th grade, and 1984, maybe it was 8th grade, was the Van Halen tour in 1984, and Aimee Shapiro, who was a dear friend then and is now, and her dad was a Jam and Company
promoter. Yeah.
So we literally saw every single concert that came through, and he would never give us front row. And the reason why, 2 reasons. And one is he wants people that are deep fans, like, of the bands. And we were of most of them. But he said, number 2, it's better sound just up.
Yes.
Section back from the stage. And he always had his dedicated security guards that were making sure that Aimee and her sister Samantha and Rick and I and the whole crew were safe. I mean, I remember, The Cure, and I mean, just it was unbelievable.
Well, Todd, that was Amy took me and her father took me to one show, U2, and it was one of the most memorable musical experiences as a teenager.
Amy's dad was such a legend. Like, I remember hearing about there's this girl at North. Her dad's like a big concert promoter. Like, I remember hearing, not necessarily with the name attached, but I just remember hearing, oh yeah, there's some girl at North. Her dad's a hotshot concert promoter.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Dick passed away probably in his mid-50s. I think.
Oh gosh.
Colon cancer, but I remember always going to their house on Cottage Downs across from Oak Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, we all still remain friends.
So do you still go to show? Like, do you still go to? I mean, obviously, music has been and continues to be a passion for you. You express it through your art. You play music. Do you still go to shows, or do you feel like you've kind of aged out of that?
There is a song by, was it Social Distortion? Like it's like "Mommy, I Never Want to Grow Up" or something. Obviously via COVID, even if there was a show, and if I was vaccinated, I wouldn't go. But this summer, and anytime, like Harriet Bandshell, there's been the Gear Daddies, the Bodines, Bob Dylan tribute bands. So I carry that on, and Eric, I want to get in as much of that before the snow and before what I project to be another very deep, dark, scary, deathly fall, winter.
Yes. Yes, I agree. So, but is there a band that you love the most?
As a matter of fact, I mean, I've been to 114 Grateful Dead shows. I have I have every ticket stub dating to 1987, and it's framed. And then I have my little, like, tiny notebook, because we didn't have phones, to take notes. And every show I would write down the set list.
Of course.
And I still have that.
For the Dead, yeah.
And they're still going. They started their fall tour with Dead and Company with John Mayer. They played in Raleigh last night. They're playing there tonight, and they're hitting about 46 shows, so about 20 some cities.
Okay, I'm gonna throw you a curveball. So can you explain to me the difference between the Grateful Dead and Phish?
Interesting. I never, Marnie, connected with Phish back then.
Oh,
I've started to kind of, but there's such an amalgamation of, I don't even know what they're doing. And people say, oh, well, they copied the Grateful Dead. Well, no, they're like freestyle music, but they're not the same. I've really gotten back into Pearl Jam.
yes. Yes.
They've been together for 30 some years. The Dead were together, and then, God, they're with the current iteration, and John Mayer is doing a great job, but it's 55 years because, Bobby Weir is 75. He posted
It's so interesting. One of the reasons I love KHOP88, because I would feel okay asking you this question, Todd, but none of my friends here in Portland. We have a Grateful Dead question from Doug Robertson, one of our big supporters, KHOP88. His question, Todd, is, what's your favorite Dead song? It's a Chris Bjork question.
Scarlet Begonias.
Why?
Some of the quotes in that song, like, once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. And there's just so many of those phrases that are meaningful. But as you know, I mean, they write some pretty amazing music that if somebody were to take the time to listen to it, I think they would find some love from it.
Marnie, didn't you go to Dead show in high school? Did you and Todd Ames go to a Dead show together at some point? I thought I remember you guys talking about that.
Yes, about 1987 at the Metrodome with Bob Dylan, right, Marnie?
Yes, I went to one Grateful Dead show in high school in my whole life.
And how was it? As a newbie, we've got 114 Dead shows and one Dead show, and I'm at a big fat zero. So let's hear your experience.
I have always been a more of an independent rock fan, and so I was okay with just going to one show.
Marnie, who are a couple of your favorite bands, musicians these days?
Now? Well, I mean, I listen to more local music. So I listen to in Portland. I'm living here in Portland again. And so there were a lot of bands with people, like the most famous Portland musician was Elliott Smith. Some of you might know Elliott Smith. So I'm going to my first pandemic show in September. It's outside, socially distanced, and the band is Quasi, and they played with all sorts of like Portland people like Elliott Smith. But this is not about me, it's about you.
No, quick question. When did you leave Northern California?
Good question. Yeah, you can't ask. I'm being silly, Todd.
I know. I can handle it.
Moved back to Portland, Oregon in June. It is my fourth time moving to Portland and the last time. And so when I moved out west, the Pacific Northwest, the first time in 1992, I just came to the Northwest and just loved it. And I left a lot of times, but it's really my home away from home. So I love all Pearl Jam. I mean, all that Pacific Northwest bands, Sleater Kinney. Yeah. Doug is out here with me, so.
Oh, nice. That's
good.
So, Todd, I remember at one point you were working in commercial real estate. Are you still in that field?
So for 27 years, I was a tenant advisor, representing tenants for Cushman & Wakefield. That's what I worked for. And then 3 years ago, I got sick of big corporate America, and I started Latitude Real Estate Advisors. And that's been going in my 3.5 years. And this is kind of cool. A couple of years ago, a friend approached me about investing in a CBD health and wellness store. Ironically, it's kitty corner for me on Excelsior Boulevard. So we opened up, and he runs day to day, but we opened up Grow to Life Alternative Health. And it's really cool. It's not all about CBD and Delta 8. We have feather earrings, we have art, we have a Zen garden in back, and we also do what we call sessions. So twice a week, we'll do meditation or yoga or Zen painting. So we really created a community there, and we had our 1-year anniversary last Sunday.
Congrats.
Yeah, very cool.
Now, let me ask you, this is so fun. You're talking about so many interesting topics. To me, the cannabis industry is more interesting than some of the funny things. Jason and I would joke about Bitcoins. So the cannabis industry is a little bit like Bitcoin to me. Can you just tell us some facts, like what is legal in Minnesota? How does it, is it hard to run a store where you sell cannabis products?
So, it's a great question. There's the cannabis plants that, have THC. Yes. And then there are CBD. This is really interesting. An Israeli scientist in 1989 founded the endocannabinoidal system in our body. And it's like the nervous system, the muscular system. Well, it turns out that endocannabinoidal system actually operates and runs the health and well-being as well as the other systems. So if you have a bum knee because you fell or whatever, well, it's going to open up and it's going to attract CBD receptors. And the receptors, for some weird reason, know precisely where to go. And then they help create more of those internal receptors. And the great thing is, for everybody, is you don't have to keep increasing the amount, which can be taken, via gummies, via tinctures. You can smoke CBD that doesn't get you high because it can't contain more than 0.03% THC, and it's a very strict guidelines everywhere.
And is it a Minnesota guideline?
No, that's a federal.
Okay.
And as you know, there's 33 or 4 states now that allow the use of, THC cannabis products, either via prescription or recreational. And I got to tell you, if we go rec here, I mean, we'll kill it. But I'm not a believer in legalizing marijuana and introducing it to people that may not have, because I think it's normalized. And I've smoked a handful in my younger days. And I think we're going to have a bunch of zombies floating around the country. So I don't see the need for straight recreational, want to smoke it to get high, versus utilizing the endocannabinoidal system, which doesn't require those levels of THC to get, to affect somebody. But, it was tough opening up a year ago with the volatility and the closures and openings and all that. And we're finally on actually, I think a pretty good path right now, which is the one I want to see.
That's super. Well, thank you for explaining a little bit for those of us who are not aware of these sort of details. Well, so can we turn a little bit to our younger days, Mr. Braufman?
Oh, those are the best. I got pictures of the big Jufro.
Yes. Well, so as you know, we have some kind of, we understand everyone's memories are spotty or sketchy. People like Mr. Haugen have better memories than the rest of us.
Yeah, it's because he got hit in the head too often with a hockey puck.
No. Did you guys play hockey together?
Early, but then Eric,
Very early.
and then he continued, and Eric played at a much more, high school level, and I stopped at 10th grade.
Yeah,
But I think
but we played base. I can't remember when you stopped playing baseball, Todd. But
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Todd was the best defensive first baseman in the entire Minnetonka Village Little League, and that thing was just, that was a whole scene back then. I remember it was. I remember, Todd, your mother would show up to games just dressed to the nines. She looked so stylish. I remember it's like, oh yeah, there's Mrs. Braufman. She wasn't necessarily dressed like she was going to a baseball game, put it that way, but she just looked impeccable.
Well, I told her you were hosting, and my dad, and a couple things they remembered you right away, and then like Sanderson and Copo and Marker, of course, and your dad never, probably still doesn't. He probably still looks like he did then, like age 45. Never wore shoes.
What?
Yes. And again, this, this could hijack the entire show, Marnie. So I'll do a quick.
Okay, I'll hold you
then
back.
we should move on. But
Okay.
My dad ran for a few years, was the president of our Little League, right? Which meant
Okay.
that, like, he was just kind of down there. Like, that's what our family did during the summer. Like, if we weren't
Okay.
playing, we were just down there hanging out, watching games. My mom ran the concession stand. My dad's, grew up in a small town in Iowa, not on a farm. He grew up in town, but he was just very comfortable, most comfortable during the summer,
Okay.
running around without shoes. So, like, he'd be just, he'd have on like, a polo shirt, shorts, and no shoes. And people still, again, to this day, remember that.
Okay.
Wait, one last comment and prayers. So I stay in touch with Steve Sanderson, and
Yeah.
his father passed away about a year ago, got hit with some form of cancer, and then it got bad quickly. But anyway, he sends his hellos to those who know him.
Yeah, Steve was a good guy, a damn good hockey player, and his dad, he had super nice parents.
Yeah.
Steve really did. His parents were great people.
Okay, so Todd was the best first baseman in the Minnetonka Little League. Do you still play baseball, Todd?
You know, I haven't had a need or reason to, but sounds kind of fun. I still have my first base mitt, Haugen.
What do you do for exercise? You must do something, right? I mean,
It's like I said, it's non-negotiable. I either, choose to do it myself or schedule it accordingly, but it kind of has to happen every day. So I've gotten into running because of Ella, and I can, not bragging, but I can hit about 18 miles 3 times a week pretty easily.
you mean 18 miles a sesh?
Yeah, but she told me it's too much. I didn't realize.
Wow.
And then I do weights, but it's definitely integral part of my life.
It's great. I mean, I think for a lot of us, it just kind of helps. It helps just keep your mind clear, right? It just kind of helps keep you whole.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, do you do it in the morning? Are you a morning exerciser typically, or?
I normally am, but I've been finding towards the sad end of summer, I've been getting out around 5:30, and Calhoun's kind of my 4 times around or a go-to.
So Todd, you live in Uptown, right? You mentioned Excelsior Boulevard in Calhoun. Are you in Uptown or near there? Or?
Thank God, Eric, just west of Uptown on the edge of Calhoun. You may not be privy to or receive news notifications, but Uptown.
I heard, I read, yeah, that's why I was asking, because I read in the Minneapolis paper, it sounds like Uptown's kind of a mess right now.
It's very sad. Today we had a event with Mayor Jacob Fry, who is a friend and a great guy, but hopefully this meeting will provide him more staunch direction on what needs to happen before the end of his term in 2022. But there hasn't been any major violence in the last 6 weeks. It's not the Uptown or downtown Eric and Marnie that you would have known and felt comfortable going to.
Yeah, well, I remember actually I saw Jason over Father's Day weekend. He had come back, and him and Brian Sanum got together, and the next day he was going down to Britt's Pub to watch some of the Euro 2020. And I remember Jason said, "Oh yeah, my dad said to me, Jason, this is not the downtown Minneapolis that you would that you're used to from growing up or from even 10 years ago. It's very different." And I think it sounds like the pandemic has driven a fair amount of that. I'm curious about how has the pandemic affected the commercial real estate business? Because that's, and is it coming back with office occupancy, or where do you see that industry going?
So the most prolific and hot sector is the industrial distribution fulfillment centers, the Amazons, and then the smaller outposts of those that provide services, out of and into the last mile. The office market, every major employer downtown mainly, but also in the suburbs, because of Delta, and now there's Lambda, as you guys know.
Yes.
It's everybody's pulled back from, right after Labor Day, and telling their employees first of the year. And I do both office and industrial, Eric. Office deals were completely and totally on hold. We were sitting around twiddling our thumbs, and all of a sudden, I think people started to see some certainty, and that certainty is that there never will be certainty. So they're like, okay, well, let's take advantage of a soft market right now based upon our strategic needs. And it could be expanding to provide more space per employee, or it could be shrinking because more people are going to work off. The way I see things ending up, I think when we get through this and hopefully eradicate the continued iteration of COVID, I think it'll be like a 70 in office, 30 out. I'm a proponent of working collaboratively in office. Of course, the Zooms are convenient and they're nice for this because all of us are dispersed around the country, and for that matter, likely for the world. But I think there's only so much of it that can go on. So as of about a month ago, my team and I have started to get back out and about and meeting with people in person, and it's actually it's provided some like 0 to 150 miles per hour. All of a sudden, things are happening. People want to figure stuff out now, so that's exciting.
Now, Eric, why did I say Todd? When did you have a job in high school?
Yeah, funny. Yes, I forgot about that one. I detailed cars mainly from family and friends from Oak Ridge because I lived across the street. And the funny story, and I make like $80 plus tip. This is way back to what, 30 some years ago.
Whoa.
Well, now I drove plenty of nice cars, and the ones that had stick shifts, I had to have my dad drive because I didn't know how to. But I detailed a member's car and was backing up. It was like a Taurus or something, and it didn't have, backup cameras. And I crashed it into a huge old tree.
Oh,
The Browns, they still joke with me when I see them around. I can't believe it.
are you? I remember hanging out at Oak Ridge with you that one Little League summer. Have you ever been a member as an adult, and are you a member there now? And I asked Marnie, and again, you talk about jobs. I caddied at Oak Ridge.
Well, you have a shirt on. You have a shirt on that says Caddy, but that might have been the
Yes.
guy in a country club.
No, this was neither. I bought this like 2 years ago. I'm forever 17 in my mind, so I figured I'd get a caddy shirt. But have you spent any time there as an adult?
So, still a member, but I stopped golfing, Eric, in 2017. I went on like a 60-mile cycle ride, and I get back to the condo pool and I ride up the ramp and I take off the helmet. I unclip one shoe, thought the other one was unclipped, and I got that, really weird bicycling outfit on, and I dove. It was, well, the bike was still attached. Yeah, this is a crazy story. Bike was still attached. I hit my head on the bottom, 3.5 feet of water.
Oh.
The bike unclips, pops up, and I'm laying on my back with bubbles, and my arms and legs wouldn't move. The body, if you have a spinal injury, goes into temporary quadriplegia. So I couldn't get up. So I knew to breathe out, right, versus take in water in the stomach. I was underwater for 2 minutes and 58 seconds, according to the video of the
security cam.
And
oh my gosh, who found you?
So I buoyed up and I was able to scream enough, and a 9-year-old kid yelled for his dad, and his dad was a doctor and knew how to remove me, because if you jostle limbs and stuff, you're likely going to go paralyzed. So it probably was about 7 or 8 minutes. He had me stabilized, and I was finally able to move my hand, my fingers and stuff. But HCMC level 1 trauma care, they were there right away, which was awesome. But they had me, buckled down on a gurney. I had bruise marks. So they take me to HCMC. I don't have my phone or anything. I can't call my parents. I'm totally out of it. So they stabilized me, put me in a room, and they wanted to do what I now have as a butterfly. It's a anterior fusion and decompression, and they go through the front. They wanted to do the surgery there with all the residents. And I remember watching like ER with George Clooney ones, and I saw all the minions, following each other. Well, they wouldn't allow me to have a consensual discharge. So I was able to use my wheelchair, go down into the druthers of HCMC, which is the creepiest all white walls, brick, cinder blocks. And I was able to, and I'm angry they wouldn't do this for me, but I was able to obtain my records, sign the consent for release, and had called my parents, but they didn't answer from like their, the phone down there. So I called Uber and Uber took me to St. John's and St. Paul, and a friend of mine is.
Wait, is that another hospital, St. John's?
Yeah,
You Ubered to another, okay,
yeah.
we have to pause for the drama. There was no consensual discharge, so you wheeled yourself down, got yourself out, and Ubered to another hospital.
My parents.
Okay, keep going.
And then a very dear friend was able to connect with whom I believe, Dr. Sinacropi, to be the top brain and spine surgeon, and got me in. And it's funny, I was pretty lively at the time because I was able to move, but I still had that, neck thing on. And he said, Todd, I don't know you, but I definitely know you. He goes, we're going in deep with screws. And they use longer screws. And he was amazing. 3 days later was the Uptown Art Festival. And he said, I can walk and, do it a bit. So I ended up walking 8 miles throughout Uptown. And then a year later, they had to do a lower spine surgery because they found shards of vertebrae in my lower spine. And they did this weird surgery, and I came out of it, Eric and Marnie, and I couldn't feel or move my right leg, and I'm crying and screaming. And they said, we just want to let you know, just do your PT. However, we can't promise you a full recovery. So I said, F the world. I'm going to make sure I recover. And next thing I know, about a year later, I'm full, healthy, no pain. Take CBD for pain, and I put CBD pain cream on my lower back. I don't take Advil, Tylenol. That stuff's terrible for our liver and kidney. So anyway, I am 100% just like I was as a younger kid.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Thanks.
I'm so happy that you have had such a good recovery. That's such a wonderful thing to hear.
Thank you. It's been a fun challenge, Marnie. Overcoming those obstacles sometimes help define and change the way not we, but I look at the world.
Definitely. Wow.
It's
really
we could go for 3 hours, Marnie. I know you won't let it.
Of course, but I really appreciate it because as we get older and face more challenges of all sorts, right? Physical challenges, mental challenges, pandemic challenges, it's always nice to know that sometimes with hard work and good help that we can get through very difficult things. So I really appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, I have to ask you, since we are coming to a close, I have to ask you, was there one of our regular KHOP88 questions, was there a teacher at any of your schools in the Hopkins district that influenced you?
Yes. Ramon as a counselor, and he was always so kind and close to everybody in the ways that, we needed, whether it be school or personal or life. But I have fond memories of Mr. Mossberg. He was,
Yeah.
You guys, I must say this, and I talk to my friends a lot at other school districts from growing up. Nobody has the kind of connections, and Marnie, thank you to Jason and all for starting this. And like, I talk to my kids, doing KHOP. What's that? I'm like, it's kind of like a radio station, but it's like but we really have an amazing class and overall high school. So that's helpful. And shit, I go for dinner and hang out with Jenny Gassman, and like there's stay in touch with Steve Simon. There's just so many of us, you guys.
Hey, Todd, I'm curious, having, daughters go through high school recently, and well, it's a different school district. It's still, the suburbs of Minneapolis, from kind of a big picture perspective, how's being a high schooler different now? Like, how does their experience differ from what we went through, 30 some odd years ago?
That's a great question. And to the parents out there that maybe don't have kids, in high school, but yet getting there. So the perspective I have of Hopkins, which I always felt safe, comfortable, and happy at, and they did a great job. And wait, whose father was superintendent?
John Bruning?
Bruning,
He was a year
yeah.
behind. He was a year behind us. He was 89. Hopkins
Yes,
89, right?
Dr. Bruning was superintendent for years. But so my kids are at Tolly is at Madison, Ella is at Wayzata, Tolly was. Everybody thinks Wayzata is so huge at 4,000 students and all. It is, but what's amazing about Wayzata, which is different than Hopkins and different than any school I know, except maybe Eden Prairie, which is large, but it avails the children starting in 9th grade to obviously have to do their core classes each year, but because there are so many students, there's so many electives. So the kids get to start to focus on areas that they're not told to, but they actually have an interest in. And I found that it is probably the best college prep public school. And the size, in my opinion, doesn't make a difference because they make it feel small based upon the pods and all that. So I would say the difference, I think things are more stressful and challenging, Eric. Technology can be helpful, but as you know, it can be stressful and cause problems socially, educationally, etc. God, what?
I mean, that's a pretty good. So that's a pretty good summary. Now, and I've heard Wayzata and Eden Prairie are huge. So you say 4,000 students. Is that across 3 grades or 4 grades?
4.
Wow. So your daughter's graduating classes from high school are about 1,000 students.
Yeah, wasn't ours like 580-ish?
Yeah, 580, 600, right in there. Yeah. But and you know, it's funny because, you know, out, and I don't know what it's like, Marnie, where you've lived, but you know, out here, you don't get these mega high schools. Like when I tell people, you know, like I told a couple guys at work, yeah, you know, I'm hosting this thing for, you know, filling in for a friend of mine. They're like, well, you know, how long have they been doing the show? Like, I don't know, for a year. Well, haven't they run out of people? And I was like, guys, we had 600 people in our class. They're like, what? And I said, yeah.
That was a huge class.
Yeah, back then. Yeah. And now it's, I mean, Wayzata, wow, 1,000. I mean, think about that. That's what, and I should be able to do the math in my head. That's what, 2/3 the size, you know, 2/3 as big as ours. But yeah, that's good. A lot of Hopkins, seems like a lot of Hopkins graduates from our era now live in Wayzata.
Oh, it's crazy. And, you know, even the district, even though it's Maple Grove High School, there are still a lot of parts of Maple Grove that are considered in Wayzata, obviously very crowded, but it's moving west down 55 and 101.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up the map, Eric. So just so everyone remembers, we have a KHOP88 map of all of the guests. So I will put Todd in Minneapolis. We don't put your street address for privacy. Yes, Eric?
Who's on the show? Who do we have coming up on the show, Mark?
Well, thanks for asking. Well, next week, why don't you, since you did the booking, why don't you share about the next week's guest?
Next week, we have Tony Cobb.
Nice.
Cobber is one of the all-time great storytellers I've ever known. So I'm looking forward to that, and also to get, you know, he's a Northern California guy like you were for, you know, for a big chunk of your life. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped to have Cobber on. I think it should be a lot of fun.
That's
and
awesome.
a little promo. Tony's, I think, grandfather was the famous Ty Cobb.
Yeah, is that true though? That's the story, that Tony was somehow a relative of Ty Cobb, but I'm still not entirely sure that's true. So you know, that's why I want to ferret out Tony. There's all these stories about, you know, he told a story about meeting Stan Musial once. He told a story about like running into a Twins player, and he was telling out some other guy how bad he was, and the guy was like right behind. I don't know. Like I said, Tony could really captivate. You know, you'd sit around those round tables in the lunchroom, and Tony would just have everyone just leaning forward in their seats and laughing. So it'll be fun.
It'll be
Well-
a great show. And I have to report that I have been corresponding with our North teacher, Peter Graff.
Mhm.
And
Oh
he
my
has
God.
declined.
I remember him.
He declined?
He has declined for
Okay.
technical reasons, not personal reasons. And so, Eric, we will talk and put our heads together.
I have a couple
for-
thoughts. We'll get on it.
I bet you do. So this has been really great. Todd, is there
Yes.
anything else you want to share or ask? Oh, I just realized I'm still Jason Joyce. Ask me or Eric before we close up.
I hope, well, not ask, but I hope the fires have subsided and that wherever you live are not up in the hills close to that crazy
Yeah.
stuff. So wishing you safety.
Yes.
Eric, next time you're in town, give us a heads up so we can plan a special happy hour. I think we're going to try to schedule one for those that live here in the next month or so after Labor Day.
good.
Talk to Leslie Jorgensen. So whatever. If you're in town, we'll do a special one. And lastly, and then I'll let you guys close. As I mentioned, Guild is near and dear to my heart. Mental health and mental health awareness is the preeminent challenge that families, students, young children, many have. And 75% of all families are impacted in some way, directly or indirectly, by mental health. Whether it be Guild, you can always reach me or anyone else. It's meaningful. One important fact, the organization has a 14% admin and overhead. Most nonprofits operate at 18 to 28%. So Guild is able to operate very effectively and efficiently and have dedicated teams to each of their, clients. So if anyone wants to chat about mental health and giving back, whether it be financially or time or what have you, I would be honored. I guess I probably should.
Todd, is there a website? Like, could you post in the comments on on your show, just, hey, here's how to find out more about the Guild? I'm sure, I'd love to, click on the link and learn some more about it. It sounds like a great organization.
Yeah, I would be happy to. And again,
Cool.
Thank you guys. Marnie, I wavered. I'm like so busy and this and that, but no, I'm never too busy to be a part of our youth family. And it's very important to me. So thank you guys and much love and health and safety to all of those who listen, watch, see this Zoom.
Well, that is so eloquent, Todd. I have
Yes.
nothing else to say other than be safe and see you all next week with Tony Cobb.
Be there.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Todd.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Bye-bye.